All right, so good evening, everybody. It's a pleasure to welcome all of you to AmCham Kuwait's Energy Focus Group, Kuwait Future Energy Sector. This presentation is done with presenters from the Kuwait Authority for Partnership Projects, KAPP, as well as our chair for the Energy Focus Group, Fred Shuaibi. My name is Paola De La Roche, and I am the Acting Executive Director of AmCham Kuwait. I would like to give a special welcome to our presenters today, Engineer Sarah Al-Usaimi, representing KAPP, and Fred Shuaibi, our Energy Focus Group Chair. As many of you know, the oil prices around the world suffered a dramatic price drop during the 2020 lockdowns. In a country in which oil is the main source of income, these events proved to be very detrimental as through the past 40 years, Kuwait has thrived from its oil and gas trade. Furthermore, globally, governments have entered agreements in which companies must reduce their CO2 emissions, creating a new market for renewable energy. Several renewable resources emerged from the pandemic, and this includes wind, solar, green hydrogen, among others, creating a new opportunity for countries like Kuwait to look into different models to boost their capacity for renewable energy sources. During these events, speakers will discuss the public-private partnership, PPP, upcoming renewable energy projects in Kuwait, and Kuwait's energy sector's efforts in the road to recovery post-pandemic. So I would now like to give the floor to Engineer Sarah Al-Usaimi. Thank you very much.
Hi, good evening. Sarah Al-Usaimi from Kuwait Authority of Partnership Project. Today, we're going to discuss the PPP and renewable energy projects in Kuwait. First of all, we're going to talk about Kuwait in general and the foreign investment in Kuwait and the role of KAB, which is the Kuwait Authority of Partnership Projects, the milestones that KAB has achieved toward the PPP program, the advantages of doing PPP in Kuwait, and we will focus more on the renewable energy projects that we have in hand currently. First of all, Kuwait. As you know, that Kuwait has a population of 4.6 million, and it has one of the highest GDPs in the world. It's around 136.8 billion. It has 10% of the world oil reserve, and it has a strategic location where it's close to other major markets in the region. Kuwait promotes foreign investment through many entities. We have several entities that work in Kuwait and are in charge of promoting businesses for the foreigners in Kuwait, such as Kariba, the Kuwait Direct Investment Authority, and the Council of Ministers. Council of Ministers promotes the partnership or the involvement of the foreign investment to come and to invest in Kuwait, and ease of regulations for the foreign investors to do business in Kuwait. And KAB is the public and private venture. It concentrates more on long-term and low-risk investments. It targets tendering state strategic and mega infrastructure projects where the private sector can participate and help in developing and operating the major infrastructure projects in the country. KAB was established under a certain rule, which is the law 116 over 2014. KAB serves mainly as the PPP project implementation. The PPP projects were the projects implement an activity through which the states target to provide a public service of the economic, social, and service importance, or to improve an existing public service to develop, reduce the cost, and increase the efficiency of such services provided in the country. Where KAB has a certain mission that it works toward it, where it tenders and implements and operates the development of strategic state projects as an investment opportunities through the PPP framework that the state of Kuwait has identified. Kuwait has a certain vision, which is 2035, and CAB is working hand to hand with toward implementing Kuwait's vision. CAB is tendering projects that are working in parallel with Kuwait's vision 2035, and CAB is also promoting the IPOs for the locals, for the companies that exceeds 60 million KD, the ones that has a capex of more than 60 million KD. Usually we do an IPO of 50% of these companies, where the locals can participate in this opportunities, and it develops jobs and create opportunities for locals in the market. CAB works with other entities toward succeeding such projects. First of all, the public entity which are related to the project, for example, the Ministry of Electricity and Water, the Ministry of Public Works, or other public entities who has mega projects and want to work hand to hand with CAB, they usually contact CAB with their opportunities, and then we can work together toward performing all the laws and obstacles in order to find a certain bidder who will take forward the project and then take it into a separate company and operate it for the next X years. For example, we have in the BPP project cycle in Kuwait. First, we identify the proposed idea from the public entity, and then we hire a transaction advisor, which will do the feasibility study for the project, and then we'll do the EOI, the RFQ documents, and then the tender documents. After that, the successful bidder will be selected, and then we'll do the financial close and establishing the company. The main milestones that CAB has done during the past years, it has launched around 7 opportunities since 50% for the locals, which is Shamal al-Zor, or the first phase of it. And during the pandemic, in July 2020, we've done the financial close of Hayman Water Treatment Company. And there are certain advantages on working in Kuwait, such as we have a higher credit rating, politically stable, and the state is serious toward the involvement of the private sector in such projects. The government is in high need for the mega infrastructure projects. Therefore, it will encourage the private sector to work hand to hand with them, and will give an easy of business opportunities, such as the waiver of customs and taxes and such of these things. And there is a transparency in doing in the competitive bidding procedures of all our projects that we have worked throughout the years. In this part, we're going to focus more about the renewable energy projects in Kuwait. As you know, the Kuwait energy sector is laying more on the oil products, and the electricity has an installed power capacity of 18.8 gigawatts. We have reached a fuel consumption that exceeds 20% of oil production by 2020, and it has increased 13% from 2013. The annual energy consumption in Kuwait is 19 megawatt hour per capita, and it's considered high. as it has been exceeding by 5% in the years between annually in the years from 2000 to 2015. Therefore, the government is in need to encourage the use of renewable energy, where the first mega renewable energy plant has been introduced, which is Shigaya Renewable Energy Park, with a total combined capacity of 4 gigawatts. It has been divided into stages, 3 stages mainly. The first stage was done by Kuwait Institute for Scientific Research, and it has been starting operation for several years. This phase, the phase one, it consists of different technologies, PV, wind, and CSP, with a total of 70 megawatts. And now in CAB, we're working on Dibdiba Power and Shigaya Renewable Energy Phase 3, which are Phase 2 and Phase 3 of the Shigaya project. It is part of Kuwait's vision of having 15% of its energy from renewable sources by the year 2030. The project was introduced by Kuwait Institute of Scientific Research and is part of the Ministry of Energy and Electricity and Water projects. The project will produce a total capacity of 3,000 megawatts, and it will be built in Shigaya area with an area of 88 square kilometers. Dibdiba and Shigaya will work under the law 39 of 2010 and the law number 116 of 2014, which regulates the public and private partnership. Dibdiba Renewable Project Phase Dibdiba and Shigaya Phase 3, it will be divided into blocks or certain projects, 3 to 5 blocks with a total capacity of 3,000 megawatts. We're now hiring a transaction advisor to give the optimum use of the land in order to use different technology, and then it will be introduced as an opportunities for the private sector by next year. This is a clear, this is just a summary of what we're doing currently on the renewable energy side, and thanks for listening.
Thank you so much, Engineer. A very insightful presentation. So we will now move on to the next presentation by Fred Shuaibi, who is the chair of our Energy Focus Group. And we will be taking questions at the end. So if you would like to start typing the questions on the chat, please feel free to do so. So Fred, the floor is yours.
I would like to welcome you all. Good evening, and welcome to our Energy Focus Group summary of season 2021-22. And we'd like to welcome all in attendance and thank our speaker, Sarah Al-Hosseini, for her presentation. Okay. Our presentation today, I would like also to thank our colleagues coming in today for the presentation. And we talked about this through our sessions with the oil and gas and energy focused group, and certain elements which is Kuwait suffered handsomely during the pandemic. Kuwait has termed as dependent on oil for its development and project, and oil and gas is a backbone revenue for the state of Kuwait in development and increasing its capacity in different terms of work of lives, and also a backbone of the Kuwait New Vision, the 2035 plan, development plan, which is, it really, at the beginning, everybody was afraid that might really delay the plan, but handsomely that everybody was up to the occasion, especially the oil and gas sector people that who were really affected heavily because of the lockdown and loss of expert and skilled manpower to run the facilities at the time. And I also praise the courageous men and women that went to handle those operations during the pandemic under these stress conditions. But Kuwait emerged as really in good shape and try to do the best. And for me, Kuwait has done better than other places in terms of recovery within the oil and gas sector and coming up to the production to supply the international markets with the supplies immediately. And that was really a good point in terms of the Kuwait courageous men and women in oil and gas. Next slide, please. So the people in charge regrouped as I talked quickly and start handling things and collecting and then employing people on a makeshift basis and training people at the same time try to get them emerging. KBC took the initiative and started grouping everybody and injecting in Kuwait Oil Company and KNBC and to start this operation. Plus, also the other plants, which is related to the oil and gas sector, the petrochemical industry as well was already affected, but also supported the oil and gas initiatives. Next slide. Kuwait revenues, the pandemic, download and deprived Kuwait of a handsomely amount of revenues and has negatively affected the economy and different macros. So the government has stepped down and tried to consolidate its efforts on issues, mainly to support oil and gas so they can bring the revenue and release them out of unnecessarily projects or tangible benefits from different kind of other projects. So the government has stepped and supported, with a budget to keep up with the plans that really initiated for the Kuwait development plan of Vision 2035. So the Kuwait oil and gas become more actively previously, and they have started to contract pre-earth projects and start doing it and issuing new projects to support the initiative as a part of the grouping to increase the revenue. Next slide, please. So the ambitious plan that added, for they start in more oil wells, as you notice, Kuwait, the strategy changed. They start more drilling for gas, tapping gas resources, and they awarded projects. The other day, the amount to about 800 million Kuwaiti dinars of project and oil drilling and gas drilling, more than 500 new gas tapping and the Jurassic survey that been studied as a different thing, was not things as to import. Now they try to produce because they found out there's amount of natural gas that can be exported and also can be found different parts of the Kuwait domain region that they can support the economy and support the plan, So the Kuwait National Assembly and the government to support this initiative by the changes within the strategy of the oil and gas, they provided 1.4 trillion for the next 2 decades to support the oil and gas industry, to support and find new different energy sources and new different kind of sources to do, such as my colleague mentioned, and we have the new solar energy plan, which is about if I'm not wrong, is 3,500 megawatt, which is the biggest in the Middle East so far. And it's going to be under study, and that's going to be that's estimated to add the solar energy to estimate to up to 15 to 20% of the future energy within Kuwait as an ambitious plan. So hopefully they are working on it, and there's going to be a project starting, very soon after the completion of the previous study. So the budget that's when really handsomely amount about 1/3 of the overall approved national spending recovery budget plan at the same time. And you can notice that the oil and gas sector now is recovering fastly, and things are coming up and they're bidding and doing things. And some of them, they have to wait, like the Southern Gas project or the petrochemical project down south. The expansion of that particular project is going to be delayed till the second quarter of 2022 instead of the end of 2021, which is another extension for the oil and the natural gas complex facilities storage area within the Azur area. Okay, next slide. So these government supporting plans really help the ambitions plan, the strategy put by KBC and its K companies to start working and developing local and global and meeting global issues, new global issue, global warming and hydrocarbon emissions, and all these become, an issue nowadays after the pandemic, and become strongly stressing countries to comply with these commissions. So Kuwait is working on it and started doing this in terms of things. They are recycling the oil, the gas, instead of burning gas within the oil field, now there's way to recycle the gas and use it for other purposes and have a safe and clean environment. So a new clean fuel, which is, you heard about the project, which is supposed to start operating in 2022 and start to providing more cleaner fuel to Kuwait instead of the previous traditional system of the industry, which has helped us, oil and gas, develop that. Next slide, please. All this, I would like to commend, KBC on the strategy. This strategy, actually, the 8 points you see on the screen, they were established earlier. But when the pandemic came, more efforts were going to do to meet this, like, the sustaining crude oil production, development of freedom, and development of a new hydrocarbon conventional resources, and construction of a new greenfield refinery in Kuwait, upgrading existing and refineries to a product to meet the international standards, construction of liquid natural gas, which is already the first part of it finished. The extension is still held. So all these things came up. It helped, Kuwait recover quickly, because there is a strategy plan, there is an element of it. There is people behind those elements of strategy. So these are the key points why Kuwait it's recovered quicker in a sense to have production and to develop things. Plus also, what helped the strategy also, privatization and Kuwaitization. Now more Kuwaiti individual, about close to 500 individuals were injected in the oil and gas and in the sectors, training new graduates and other Kuwaiti graduates to inject into the lower and medium position, and kept, the special position, which is the expert position, which is still to be filled. So it's coming up, training this, establishing the Kuwait and oil and the Kuwait petrochemical industry and Kuwait Kuwait petrochemical industry. Another thing, they are growing as well as supporting for having new products, to help new products, which is within the strategy of KBC. So these are applying these renewable resources and technology. Now it's coming into effect because the government has already allocated funds for them to start and repay the government back. Plus investment within KBC has established a direct investment by international local companies. The other day they invited 5 major companies, local and international companies, to finance the future projects within oil and gas sector, which is coming up, and it's going to be next month is going to be, decided on the winning group of companies to finance these projects. So these are new development changes. What was not before was put in a different plan and stage. So the pandemic increased and the demands for revamping the oil and gas industry to help, achieve that particular goal and in the field. So these are, what I mentioned here is, contributed handsomely to the recovery and have resources. So this is lesson learned, So there will be a new petrochemical institute. It's going to be the oil and gas and energy training locally and with experts to train more Kuwaiti to lead for expert position and send them abroad. So that's going to increase more Kuwaiti management of their resources. So in the future, they will be the effect, if anything happens, the effect will be less, than what happened now, and have to have a stalemate for so much days and time and loss of money and the whole country was crippled because of that. Now, thanks to the oil and gas sector for being more active and start revamping things and having like Kadiba and CAB now on board. This is a blessing now for the development of the plans within the 2035 Kuwaiti New Vision. So oil and gas is always the backbone, but now other sources of income and energy and other sources of income have developed as part of this. So Kuwait will be a future financial and investment hub for people looking for a new job. My contacts in Washington in previous years, people are looking over to have easement and to have investment venues within Kuwait. And I think, Kuwait is ready now for that. And I think with the oil and gas sector blooming, I think it's going to draw so many people to come and invest within the Kuwait oil and gas sector. Energy, or new energy, let's say new energy, coming up, so many things, coming up, within the plan that going to help Kuwait, and have another source of income beside the oil and gas revenues. Next slide, please. After normalization, at least, still, the offices and management of the oil and gas sector, different kind of things, they are like a beehive, but still they're required to look, they are looking for new things. We recommend that we build, we construct and train manpower sources locally. Evaluate also the operation of production and have all adverse development plans for the community to be in the future role better than it was, and to have a global supply chain to create guidelines for the next 2 decades at least. Global warming, reduce the effects of hydrocarbon, financing development, Kuwait local economy and development of new sources of energy to reduce dependence on fossil oil. So these are things coming on to find things like that. So as you see, the picture looks really more brighter than it was, because Kuwait has started taking action, because really feeling the danger gets you to make a good defense next time you face a crisis like this. Change of energy consumption habits also is going to be. So these things are dependent on natural gas strategy and depending on other sources, wind sources, solar energy, new green hydrogen, which is it's a big issue now in other countries, and it really helped, So we're gonna face other challenges in terms of while producing the oil, which is gonna be for so many years. Oil is not gonna be depleted in 1 day or 2 days or 1 year or 2 years. I think people will depend on oil and gas for so many years. But to make the operation an improvement of its production and make it safe and make it good for the environment, this is the economy we're looking for, to increase the economy, to increase dependence on things, and to increase, on things that really supported by the government to have better initiative, better things, better actions for, Kuwait to develop its resources and economy and producing new clean fuel as well. Also to develop natural manpower management. This is important, within the oil and gas sector and energy. The new energy, you have to train people ahead of time, I have talked to my colleagues at Kisser sometimes back. They are a good base to have. I think they should start some kind of things for the new renewable source of energy, such wind and other like solar energy, which is very cheap. Okay, it doesn't cost much. Okay, but you cannot, with the development of the different cells for solar energy. Now the oil and gas sector is using instruments and using equipment that depends on solar energy in remote area to overcome, extension of their power lines and costing extra. So it's becoming saving. So it's going to be lots of things be used. Even homes is going to be in the future. There'll be a mandate. Will be codes, building codes to have solar energy, not only but the oil and gas, but also for the the urban areas as well. So this will reduce the power consumption. That will give the power plants to be reducing dependence on fossil fuel and has clean fuel and use solar energy in a grid pattern to supplement the power supply. So also the current production strategy is considered to be the backbone finance of the Kuwait National Development Plan 2020-35 and KBC proposed action strategy vision of 2035. These will meet the goals and objective if they applied continuously and diligently and phased within a thing and building the strategy, different ways to produce and put it on course of action ahead for Kuwait. And also Kuwait oil and gas is looking to look on oil production at handsomely affect the reduction of future oil imports. So that will prompt the Kuwait to have to look into different kind of sources. And I think it's going to be lots of plans supported by different kind of sectors within the state of Kuwait, which is to help out in that, This prompts Kuwait plans widely for a future oil and gas reduction and to utilize its revenues and to achieve its optimum national benefit and ability to support the Kuwait National Plan for 2035 effectively. Okay, making all these, making up for lost time is a must, but it should be steadily and it should be work scientifically and technically and with management to deal with every sector of it to reduce budget deficit incurred during the pandemic. Next slide, please. In summary, as we talked, Kuwait currently face many challenges and still even, did very well within the last 9 months at least, and they're continuous. And, it needs more support by the government. Also, the challenges include lots of things, skilled manpower. Like you see, the southern partnership of Quebec and other things and the refining and all these things, they require no less than 50,000 individual of expert manpower, technical and skilled labor, technical labor, not normal labor. So these are challenges still to be for operating the new facility. So the planning to do this, to plan, local manpower supplemented by international and expatriate manpower to do this. So the government should be also looking into that and plan and should work on this to bring Kuwait to safety and establish like the new project, like you have lots of projects coming up, within the plan, which is Medina Al Harir, and they have also the Mutla Southern Section. They have the second business zone, development zone. These are things, if they applied, Kuwait will be having a big lift in terms of revenues and less dependence on the revenues of oil and gas alone. Thank you very much for. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Fred. All right, so now we're gonna move on to the Q&A. The first question being, and I'm guessing this one is for Fred, does Kuwait produce non-associated gases for the use in petrochemical projects such as Kuwait? And if so, at what price would the gas be sold to the project company?
See, now with the new resources that Kuwait start to produce, it's not going to be. But because of the import before, Kuwait, relied on import and storage, for the future. But now it turns back to produce. So the production of this is going to be less because the government has issued a standard to have for petrochemicals, Kuwait included, and PIC also included, to have byproducts established. Kuwait have started that overseas, but now to increase this project and finance them, there is about close to $2.86 billion for the petrochemical industry utilizing the new energy. So that's going to help, reduce. But the cost, in terms of the cost, it's not going to be, much, but it's going to be the system. You have to turn to use systems instead of conventional, to use, a new gas system, because that is used now as an injection into the industry, but is not widely as to operate. So if you want to do it as a way, you have also changed it, like, the new refineries. Now, all the refineries, the new refinery in Zohr and the modernization of the north part of the refinery, they have modification within to comply with these new changes in the under the environmental and global mandate for hydrocarbon emissions and other standards within the environmental condition within the industrial sector. So, but I think that will involve, I think this money that allocated for that $2.8 billion dinars, to upgrade the petrochemical industry and start producing byproducts. These byproducts, if you start storing the byproducts and selling them, it's going to offset any cost coming up from the gas uses. But everybody is turning to green hydrogen now, and Kuwait is building big storage facility to start using this. And the new strategy for KBC is to go that, and KOC now start applying that strategy by having 500 oil gas tapping rigs starting working, and they have awarded about $825 million million dinars of projects for the gas exploration and tapping. So one is going to start, by the end of this. The first part of it's going to be awarded by the end of this year, and the second part of it's going to be by the first quarter of next year. So it's going to be a very handsome work, for people to do lots of work within the thing. And the petrochemical industry, has also the blessing of the Council of Ministers to start doing these things and changing to new standards of production and new products on the market.
Thank you so much, Fred. We have another question. So if a company wants to work in specific projects in which KAPP is involved, can they share their capacities directly with the KAPP? And if so, how would they go about it?
Well, this is, first of all,
Yes, they can contact CAP directly, depending on the project. If they have an opportunity in hand, they have an idea of a new project, they can come to CAP and submit their opportunity or their idea, and this idea would be taken into consideration with the public entity related to such opportunity. For example, if they have an opportunity, have a project in the oil and gas sector or in the electrical sector, in the utility sector, whatever, they can bring it to CAB and we will look into it and we will contact directly the public entity which is in charge of such project. And then if there is an opportunity, this will be taken into the next step in accordance to CAB's law. But if there is an opportunity with CAB that we will be introducing, for example, the next upcoming project, which is Zor and Al Khiran, new stations, power stations, and the Shigaya Renewable Energy Park. In this case, if they're intending into tendering for such projects, we will be launching these opportunities and then they can submit their proposals, depending on which side they're looking into. If it's a new opportunity or they want to submit into our existing projects. In both cases, they can contact us at any time to get further details depending on the project.
Thank you so much, Engineer. Fred, did you want to add to this question? There you go.
Yeah, the same question. If the company wants to market its products or wants to market its services, they're to market their products. You mean services or products?
I believe their capacities, so that would be their service.
Okay. Which is it's an international company or a local company?
It would be an international company.
Oh, international company, they have what Sarah said. They can go to CAP first to participate as part of the version, or they go to Kadiba as well, or they can apply through the oil and gas sector and be an investor within the oil and gas sector directly through the KBC, or KOC, the KBC, they have to go to KBC. And then they decide the standard. But now CAB is open for partnership. Kadiba is open for partnership. And KBC can work on this if they can. They're looking for also investment. Now, all sectors, even the Ministry of Electricity Power, and they are looking for companies to start partnership to build the new power stations, okay, and a new technology. So these are things coming up, So every part of the government, even the Ministry of Communication, even Ministry of Health, maybe Ministry of Housing, because they try this. So everything in the sector, oil gas sector now will.
So much. Okay, someone is asking about Kisser, but I'm not sure if this applies to you guys. They're basically asking the same thing. If they're interested in sharing their capacities or a project in mind related to wave energy, is it possible to get a chance to present such ideas to decision makers in Kisser? Maybe this could also apply to CAP or any other government entity.
What's the address is the company has a project. Sarah, go ahead.
If the project is related to Kisser, you can contact them directly. We have good relations with them. So if you can contact us, we can do something regarding the project. But if the project is related to CAB, you can contact CAB directly.
Thank you so much. Okay, well, I think that is our time for the questions. It seems that at this time, a lot of people are going online and we might be cut short quite soon. So once again, I would like to thank you both very much. This concludes the event, and we would like to thank the Kuwait Authority for Partnership Projects once again for all of their contributions, Engineer Sarah, and we would like to thank Fred Shuaibi for his presentation and representing the Energy Focus Group, as well as his input. We wish you all a great evening, and please don't forget to follow us on social media for upcoming events. If you have any questions on this presentation, please let us know or send us an email. If you do want to share your capacities with KAPP, kindly reach out to them directly. Engineer Sarah, is there an email that they can possibly share their capacities to?
Yes, you can share my email, s.alusimi@kapp.gov.kw.
Thank you so much. We will be sure to include that also on the post-event email. Again, I thank you all very much for your time and the speakers for your wonderful input.
Thank you very much.
Have a great evening.
Thank you all. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.